Alrighty, guys. Wait for everyone to get connected here. Make sure that we get my comment section up here so I can actually see what you guys are talking about as well. There we go. All right, so what do you want to talk about this week? Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. We don't talk about Bruno. But, man, it's interesting times that we live in. My wife and I went out and saw the Elvis movie yesterday, or 2 days ago. I'm not a big Elvis fan. Like, I don't, I know his music. I've heard his music. I don't have it on a playlist or anything. I was born in '76, so, I didn't have the cultural phenomenon that was Elvis that maybe a lot of you guys had. The movie was really good, though. I thought it's done from the perspective, it's not a movie about Elvis, it's a movie about Elvis's manager, who Roger Olson actually had met in Vegas. It was kind of funny. But basically the story was, it showed all the stuff that happened to Elvis, that Elvis did and was doing, gives you some background on how that some of that came about, a little bit of the victimization that his manager may have done to him there. But it was a good movie all the way around. And one of the things that struck me was that when Elvis died, I had no idea that Jimmy Carter addressed the nation about the death of Elvis. And it made me think, who would have to die now for Joe Biden to address the nation? Like, I was trying to think, like, Elon? No, he wouldn't address the nation for Elon dying. Who would have to die to get a presidential address right now? Who is that popular in our society right now that would get a presidential address? Apolitically popular. Of course, a lot of people on the right, didn't like Elvis because, they didn't like his music or the way he dressed or the fact that he wore makeup or whatever. But anyway, it was one of those things where, the more I read and the more I learn about the late 1970s, the more I can see parallels to what's going on. It's not a rhyme, or it's not a repeat. It's more of a rhyme than a repeat of what happened in the 70s. But a lot of this, we've talked about this on the Aftershock before, doesn't make sense. Why is it that a recession is inbound, but commodity prices are up? Normally, commodities go down when you go into recession because demand for goods goes down, which means demand for inputs goes down. Commodities are inputs. So why are the price of homes going up at the same time interest rates are going up and interest in housing is dropping? Makes no sense. Wouldn't the prices come down if fewer people were shopping for houses and fewer people could afford to buy houses because the interest rates were higher? Wouldn't that necessitate the price of homes coming down a bit? So it's interesting to watch the blend of inflationary and deflationary things happening at the same time in the economy. It's basically pockets of instability. And so the challenge becomes, how do you predict where the pockets of instability are? And you can't. You literally can't do it. Everything is in question. Everything is unstable. Everything is squishy. No matter where you put your money, right now it's preservation of capital is the name of the game, making sure you don't lose all your money so that you can have the chance to make money later. But the problem is, even if you stay at zero, if inflation is actually at 17%, which is what ShadowStat says it's actually at, you're losing 17% of the value of your money every year, or this year anyway. Who knows what it'll be next year? And that's the other thing. They say that inflation, it's going to come down. We're gonna see this inflation come down. What they're saying is the rate of inflation is going to decrease in the future, is what they're predicting. So it'll go from, let's just use the government's numbers, say it'll go from 8% to 5%. Well, that's a 5% increase over last year's 8% increase over last year's 2% increase. So did it actually come down, or is the rate of inflation just slowing? It's kind of like with, government budgets. If you say that the government gets no increase in the budget this year, well, that's a cut. You can't do that. That's a budget cut. A 0% rate of increase is a cut. No, it's a 0% rate of increase. It's not a cut. So it's interesting to watch all the stuff going on and see all the issues, and then look back at the problems and the issues that were present in the late 70s. And I bet you, I was not very aware at that time, I'll mind you, but I bet you that there was a lot of people that didn't think there was a way to come out of that. I bet you there was a lot of people who thought that the country was done for. I bet you that there was a lot of people who thought the communists were coming for us, and that there was an existential threat, that our weakened military, who was defeated in Vietnam and not supported at home, couldn't stand up against communist threats. I bet there was a lot of fear, right? How did the country get out of that? A lot of people will credit Ronald Reagan with that. Ronald Reagan did a lot of things very, very right. Man was not a saint. No politician is, but he did a lot of things very right. He was supported by a Federal Reserve that gave him a massive dose of pain early in his presidency to get a big reward later. And then there was the natural deflationary tendencies of microprocessors, which was one of the things no one ever talks about. What happened in the late 80s, what happened in the early 80s that changed the way the world worked in the late 80s and allowed the dot-com boom to happen? It was the invention of the microprocessor. Simon Says was responsible for it. Before Simon Says, you had Rubik's Cube, right? Well, Simon Says is that game with the circle where it's got 4 colors, and it goes green, you press green. Then it goes green, yellow, and you go green, yellow. Then it goes green, yellow, green, green, yellow, green. You remember the pattern, and you have to keep mirroring the pattern back to the device until you get it wrong, and it goes brrr, and you lose. That changed the world. That was the first ever game with a microprocessor. And once that door was opened, microprocessors could go into anything. And every time a microprocessor went into something, it made it more productive. It made it do more things than it did before, which meant you could buy less of it. But it was a weird calculation because, like the Simon Says that you would buy today, the chip, the processor in that thing, is way more efficient, way more energy efficient than the processor from the 80s. In the 80s, you were popping a couple C batteries into your Simon Says to get it to do what you needed it to do. Now you can run it, on a pocket one and a watch battery, or you can play Simon Says on your phone with your phone battery. So much more efficient the chips today are. So over time, chips become more efficient, which means they can do more, but their prices tend to stay about the same over time, roughly. So that means that you're getting more performance at a lower price per gigahertz, per megahertz, whatever, which means automation can happen. And I think the thing that's going to pull us out of this is going to be another technological revolution that's brought on by necessity. In other words, we can't find people. And I don't know what happened to the people. Where did they all go? It really makes you wonder, did the rapture happen and I got left behind? There's no one to bring my ice cream at Sonic. There's, and it's and it's not a matter of paying money per hour. You can raise the amount of money you're willing to pay per hour, and you just get more interest from the same small pool of people who will leave you the second they're offered another X amount per hour somewhere else. So we have a price-wage spiral in effect right now. That is ending. It's in the tail end. So unfortunately, what that means for employers or employees is that there's going to be a balanced shift of power back away from employees back to employers, where employers are able to dictate the terms. You will come to the office, like Elon was doing. You will come to the office or you won't have a job. You can stay home if you want, but you'll be staying home on your own dime, not mine. That was his position. You're seeing this a lot more in technology now. You're seeing mortgage bankers are getting their jobs cut like mad right now. There was some bank that cut thousands of mortgage bankers. How many mortgage bankers did you have? They cut them all because people aren't interested in mortgages right now, or refis are way down. Remember when a refinance was going to take 3 months to get done because there were so many people who wanted them because the interest rates were so low. Well, now the interest rates are not low. Nobody wants to refinance now. So what do you need all the mortgage bankers for? So I think what we're going to see, we need that dose of pain. We desperately need the creative destruction that is the dose of pain. We haven't had a dose of pain in 30 years. We need the dose of pain. We need the people to remember that investing is not an automatic win, that the prices don't always just go up over time. Sometimes they go down. And yes, over time they always go up thanks to inflation. But when you retire, are they going to be up? They don't always go up all the time. So we need this dose of pain. So the problem is the dose of pain that Volcker hit the economy with drove it into a deep recession because he raised the interest rates higher than the rate of inflation. Well, if, let's just say inflation is what the government says it is at 8% at the core, if you raise interest rates to 8%, my goodness, they're having a heart attack right now at what, 1 point something, 2%? Like, they're having a heart attack over that. Could you imagine raising it to 8%, what that would do? And then if the inflation is really 17%, could you imagine? Yeah, I can't. That would be, politically, it's unsustainable. So you would need a Fed that is just reelected, who has a 4-year term under his belt to work with, and doesn't care about the political ramifications of what he needs to do. Yeah, we got a Fed that's pretty much, he could be that. If he decided he wanted to do that, Jerome Powell just got another 4-year term. And, the Democrats are pretty hosed this election, it looks like. A lot of time between now and presidential election time. But, I don't see anything dramatically changing to the upside for any particular reason. Maybe aside from just cyclic reasons, we can see a moderating of the effects. But yeah, I don't know. It could be interesting to watch. But then right now we're in this weird place in the stock market where we got a ton of bad economic news last week, but stock prices went up. Why? Because bad news is good news now. Because the worse the economy gets, the less likely it is for the Fed to keep hiking interest rates, which means that the punch bowl will get turned back on. We'll have quantitative easing coming back and low interest rates back to zero again, and happy days are here again in the stock market. That's why the market's going up. It's predicting that in 6 months that they're going to stop the rate hikes because he won't be able to sustain them without driving the economy into recession, which is something they don't want to do. They're trying to thread the needle for a soft landing, which is just going to stretch out this thing longer. So it'll be interesting to see if the Fed actually sticks with the plan or if the Fed responds to market conditions and pulls back and stops tightening, stops raising rates because the economy is going into recession. Oh no, what are we going to do? What's recession? Recession is 2 quarters of negative growth, okay? I would stipulate that we've had 4 quarters of artificial growth. Because when everything was locked down and everybody stayed home, ain't nothing growing. The only growth or gains that happened there were people getting stimmy checks and businesses getting PPP loans. That was the only growth happening. Now that giant flood of money is over with, and a lot of businesses increase their spending because they believe that money was actually new capital. Right? Like this was capital we could use to expand our business. They didn't bank the money. So they spent all the money on new equipment and advertising and marketing and all the things that make businesses grow and flourish and sell products. But now they're out of money. And now sales are dropping, especially after adjustment for inflation. So what do? We discount. So we have to lower the prices on things to blow stuff out to get the inventory out of our warehouses and to get at least some money, some profit back on the goods in an environment where they might not sell if we don't put them on special. So that's what you're seeing happening now. You're starting to see it. I will use my daughter. My daughter loves these stupid LOL surprise balls. It's a surprise ball that you unwrap it, and then inside that there's something else you unwrap, and then inside that there's a bag, and you open that, and it's an experience toy. She doesn't actually play with the toys. In fact, we could probably throw away half of her LOL surprise dolls, and she probably wouldn't even know they were gone, because my daughter is into the opening of things. She's very fixated on opening. So if we get an Amazon package in the mail, if the mail comes, she wants to open the mail. She loves to open things. And so the LOL surprise dolls are a nice treat for her, that she gets to satisfy her urge for opening things. So once in a while, if we're at Target, we'll pick up an LOL surprise doll. They usually cost around $10 a ball. Except now they're on special for as low as $6 a ball. That's a 40% price drop. Some of the larger LOL surprise items are 50% off. So instead of $60 for like the big one with the kinetic sand and everything in it, that one is now $30 on special. And it's not all the toys. It's not all the LOL dolls. It's just here and there, some things. It's almost as if a company is purposefully trying to reduce the number of things they have in inventory based on simply the number of things they have in inventory. We have a lot of the Year of the Ox LOL surprise balls. We don't have so many movie magic balls. So we want to get rid of these Ox balls. And we're not going to put the movie magic on sale. We're just going to get rid of the Ox ones. So those are 40, 50, 60% off. So you can literally go to the store and you can see it happening. It's not happening in the grocery section, for sure. But in the non-grocery section, in the seasonal sections, you can see this happening. So shop for the deals. I mean, you can find some really, really incredible deals on things that maybe you don't need to buy. That's the trick. And that's why they're on special. They're trying to encourage you to come in there and buy them. So we're going to see some deflationary pressures. We're seeing just these weird imbalances in the market. And eventually, the market will find equilibrium. The equilibrium point that I'm reading about, though, is pretty flipping scary. Equilibrium point predicted this year for gasoline is a national average of $7.50 a gallon. National average. Makes you want to go buy some gas cans right now, doesn't it? Get one of the big drums in the backyard. It goes up on the stand like the farmers have. You just fill it with gas. Probably be a better investment than the 401k, right? You just put $10,000 worth of gas in there and then wait 6 months and it's worth $15,000. Woohoo, baby! There you go. Yeah, I'm trying to imagine $7.50 gas. They're saying that before the end of the summer, in some areas of the country where they have the higher gas taxes and everything else, like California basically, you will have double-digit gas. And we already saw them doing the upgrades to the software on the gas pumps to enable the double-digit, because a lot of the gas pumps don't have the ability to have double digits. What about gas signs? The signs outside the gas stations? A lot of them don't have a space for an extra digit either. What are they going to do with that? Are they just going to drop the decimals off the end? Like, it'll be like, $7-ish a gallon. If you have to ask the price, you can't afford it. One of those things. I don't know. So anyway, there's more pain coming, but this is the nature of market imbalances. There's also opportunity. So when there's an imbalance in the market, everyone focuses on the negative imbalances. So energy costs are up, so anything you have to move is up, right? Anything you have to do is going to go way up. Software shouldn't go way up. Software should drop in price as people attempt to attract people to purchase their products, right? So you're going to see that. I mean, look at our software products. Secure Updater install price, Sophos install price hasn't gone up Secure Updater ever has never gone up. And I think the Sophos install price, it went up like 5 years ago by $5, I think. But that was it. It was simply to cover labor increases. Because there's a ceiling to what people will pay for subscriptions. And so it is what it is. We can't really raise them, right? So how do we get more people to subscribe to products? Well, with security products, it's a different kind of subscription. It's more of a needed subscription. But like, let's say, for example, you have Netflix and Hulu, and you have to get rid of one of them. You're going to look at how much each one costs, and when you go to cancel it, let's say they send you to the retention department, and they say, well, if you keep your Netflix, we'll give it to you for half off. Well, then you go to cancel Hulu, and you don't get that deal from Hulu. you're going to keep your Netflix at the lower price. All things being equal. So people are making decisions about things that they're going to keep and they're going to toss. They're getting a little more frugal with their money. Luckily, we're in an industry that is somewhat inelastic. People need technology to do their day-to-day things. They need the technology to work. The challenge that we have to have as a company is to make sure that we have the right solutions in place at the right times, at the right price points. Hence why I'm asking if people want to see a sale on upgrades for Windows 11 compatibility. Even if you don't want to go to Windows 11 right now, just having your computer be compatible to go to Windows 11 sets you up for a 2025 upgrade when the time comes. So there's a lot of different ways to look at this and make sure that people are getting what they need from us. But yeah, I mean, it's like everywhere you go, you see it. Everywhere you go, especially in Nebraska and Iowa. And literally, I'm like, where did all the people go? So I Googled it. I was like, well, why is Nebraska's unemployment rate so low? Well, primarily, the main thoughts of this. Now, we've had a historically lower unemployment rate going all the way back to the Great Recession, right? So Nebraska and Iowa trend better than the rest of the country on unemployment at all times for some reason. Part of it during the COVID pandemic was Nebraska and Iowa didn't close. We didn't lock down like the other states did. There were only 9 states that did not lock down. Nebraska and Iowa were 2 of the 9. As a result, our essential people, the people working at Sonic, kept working. Everybody kept working. And everybody got stimmies. And then it got harder to find people, which caused employers to pay more money or find efficiencies, which then people got another stimmy. And then there was extended unemployment. So now I can quit my job, get government stimmies, and collect extended unemployment benefits. Why would I go back to work at this point? What could you possibly offer me that beats me sitting at home and playing with my new puppy? Whatever. Where did all the people go? Well, I think some of it is there was a lot of there's been a lot of discussion about what parents saw their kids learning during remote education. So when the parents were basically present in the classrooms for the remote lessons, and they realized how much time is spent in a public school classroom on non-educational tasks, bathroom breaks, pizza parties, movie day, teacher in-service day, half day, the day before vacation, nothing gets done. The day after everyone gets back, nothing gets done. So all this time that's spent unproductively at school, if taken into a home environment that is catered to that individual child's exact needs, school can be done in 2 or 3 hours and actually get a better outcome. And then the child is actually spending time with their family, which is increasing family bond, which is increasing trust and dependence and all these, and reducing these mental health things that everybody seems to have now. My family, we were watching Stranger Things. I don't know if I've told this story on Aftershock yet or not, but we were watching Stranger Things. I don't want to spoil it if you haven't watched it or whatever. Maybe you're not going to. I don't know. But there was a bullying scene, right? And it was vicious. Like, they were at a roller skating rink, and this girl was getting bullied. And they called her out into the center of the rink, and she thought she was going out with some friends to get some special attention or whatever. And everyone was skating around her in a circle, and then they started making fun of her. And then the DJ in the DJ box started playing some song to taunt her. And then people threw milkshakes on her. All the while, somebody else was recording this with a VHS camcorder as she falls on her butt in a pile of milkshake and starts crying. And I looked at my son, and I'm like, that was what the 80s was like. That's what bullying looks like. Bullying isn't a preferred pronoun or language that offends you. That is bullying. And do you know how she got them to stop bullying her? She cracked the girl in the face with a roller skate. Busted her face wide open. Everyone in the rink looked at her like she was some monster for busting that bully's face wide open. But wasn't nobody making fun of her anymore. Yeah, that's how you stop a bully. And my son literally just looks at me, and like he always does, because apparently I tend to say some unbelievable things at times. He looks to Mom, and he goes, is he for real? And the lovely Kimberly is like, yeah, Jacob, that's really what bullying is like. That's what it was like in the 80s. And everybody got bullied by somebody. It was a food chain. Everybody got bullied by somebody. And if you didn't get bullied by somebody, then you exited high school and then your life fell apart because you had no resilience whatsoever. But now it seems like everybody has anxiety about something, or it's everybody expects life to be simple and easy and predictable and carefree and problem-free. And that's just not how life works. And kids spending more time at home with their families gives you that support network, in my opinion, that the kids need. We need family, right? I mean, it sounds, I don't want to say something that's like radical here, but because some kids just don't have family. Some kids don't have a dad. Some kids don't have a mom. Some kids, they don't have a nuclear family. But the family bonds are what you fall back on when everything else around you is crumbling, because everything else around you doesn't matter. Your friends and the kids that were bullying you in elementary school don't matter. The kids that were taunting and making fun of you in high school don't matter anymore. In fact, all those grades you worked so hard for in high school don't matter anymore. This is why I'm like, you know what? I support the scouting program, but do I really need to put my kid through Cub Scouts? Because none of it matters. None of it carries into Boy Scouts. I can do all those lessons and skills with him at home. Why do I need to go? Because in essence, if you put your kid into Cub Scouts, you end up being the Cub Scout master, or at least a den leader. Why do I have to go through all that work and effort when I can just enjoy spending time with my kid as opposed to having to spend time with everybody else's kid? And I can go take my kid out camping and fishing and teach him how to properly use a knife and how to properly handle a fire and things that kids learn in Cub Scouts. Why do I have to get them belt loops and pay the dues and do all the other stuff to go through that experience when it doesn't carry over into Boy Scouts? Has no impact on Eagle Scout whatsoever. They don't even ask if you're a Cub Scout when you go in for your Eagle. Don't even ask. How many belt loops did you have? They don't care. They don't know. Doesn't matter. So none of this stuff from high school, none of this stuff matters. None of this stuff from grade school matters. None of this stuff from your childhood. All those people are gone. They're all gone, right? Hopefully. The ones that made fun of you anyway. If they're still hanging around, you got a problem. But yeah, so having all these kids at home doing school and the parents seeing that, I'm wondering how many parents decided maybe I need to spend more time at home with my kids because they didn't like what they saw. And I'm not saying they didn't like what the teachers were doing. I'm just saying they didn't like how it displayed the disconnect. Like, I am the parent, but that's the teacher, and that's the school, and that's where my kid is, and I'm just the parent. When actually it's the other way around. You're the parent. That's just the school, and just the teacher, and just the administrator. And if they don't like something, they can stick it in their pie hole and smoke it. Because you're the parent. And you have the power to pull that kid out of that school. Like that. You don't have to ask permission. Did you know you can just take your kid out of school in the middle of the year and flip a giant bird to anybody? Now, they might call CPS on you because that's what, they don't like that. They lose funding when they lose a kid, especially a special needs kid. They lose a lot of funding. So some parents maybe decided they wanted to stay home with their kiddos for various reasons. Well, that means they're not in the workforce anymore, right? And that means we have fewer people. I'm trying to figure out where the people went. Because, I mean, it wasn't the mom of 5 wasn't the one working at Sonic. Where did the people go? They didn't all die of COVID. They didn't all die of vaccines. They're not dead. Where did they go? Why are they not working? Why is the unemployment rate so low? Well, one website said the unemployment rate is lower in Nebraska and Iowa because people get paid less here, so they have to work 2 jobs to get by. So the unemployment rate is lower because people have multiple jobs. Well, if people have multiple jobs, why can't I hire anybody? At any price. Now, of course, if I raise the price high enough, I get completely unqualified people that I would normally not even interview applying for the job. People who in their applications literally are telling me how they don't want to work for me. Literally. Like, I do not want to work for you, but for that amount of money, I will come work for you. Why would you hire that person? How desperate do you think we are? I mean, I'd rather automate before I hire that person. I'd rather make my customer press 1 to get to the operator than hire that person to answer the phone who doesn't care about my people. So anyway, I don't know where they went. Maybe you guys do. If you guys know where the people are hiding, let me know. Good morning, Mary, Mitch, Roger. Good to have you. Are you using a cheat card like our president? You know, I've been doing this for a little while now, so while over time things have changed and I have implemented additional rules upon myself, like, I will do some show prep before I sit down to do the show and not just ad-lib the whole program from start to finish. That's what the aftershock is. That's why I go off on these tangents like homeschool and then come back like, oh yeah, what was I talking about again? Oh yeah, I was talking about where the people went. Yeah, that happened during the broadcast show back in the day. So I have to impose a structure on the show so that I stay within that structure. The aftershock is when I can just, let my freaky flag fly around and talk about whatever I want. Well, within reason, of course. Cheryl and Rich are here. Mark's here. Pat in Northwest Missouri is here. Richard's here. Can we upgrade our Windows 10 Schrock notebook? Unfortunately, laptops that are not compatible can't be made compatible because you have to change hardware. And in a laptop, you can't change that. You can change the hard drive, you can change the memory, but you can't change the processor, and that's the part that needs to be changed to make it compatible. So if it is compatible now, if it's a 3rd gen Ryzen chip or an Intel 8th gen chip or older or newer, oh boy, coffee's wearing off. If it's that or newer, then it should be compatible just fine. If it's an older computer with a laptop, there's nothing you can really do to make them upgradable, unfortunately. Thank you for the audio check, Winston. Let's see. The federal budget used to have an automatic 10% built in. I think it's still there. Budget doubles every 7 years. I thought it was 4%, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely an auto increase in there. In Portugal, it's illegal to name your baby Thor? Why is that? Is that for real? I'm going to look that up. Why not? Let's see. Baby names that can get you arrested. Guess I'm not going to Portugal, huh? Let's see. Thor. After a certain Australian actor's performance of the Norse god of thunder and lightning, who wouldn't want their little boy named Thor? Of course, right? Officials in Portugal for a start. Thor is on a long list of band names in Portugal, resting along signs like James, Jimmy, and William. So you see, when you say you can't name your kid Thor, or Jimmy or Bill, then it kind of takes something away from it, right? Like Norway, Portugal takes its citizens' names very seriously. Also, the Portuguese government is determined that its current and future residents take pride in the Portuguese culture and heritage by using primarily Portuguese and Spanish names. So instead of bumping into a Thomas, you are more likely to run into a Tomas. There you go. Illegal to name your baby Thor, or William, or Tommy. No Tommies. We don't want any Tommy here. I did not know that. I learned something new today. Let's see. Aaron is still in physical rehab hospital. You just need to get up and start doing push-ups, Aaron. She's saying that she's been there 17 days. She's only had 5 rehab sessions. You gotta start doing push-ups or something. I don't know. I'm thinking that they're going to do they're going to do a physical therapy session, but they got to give you a day to recover. So that 5 sessions is 10 days. You throw a couple weekends in there, you're pretty close to 17 days. Yeah, that would be extremely frustrating. Rehab hospitals, I remember when my dad was in those. He was in there multiple times. And they are very frustrating. it's frustrating when your body is not doing what you're telling it to do. Let's see here. Gotta hit the road, Thor. We'll catch you on the cell network. Good. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate it. Went through bullying like that in the 80s. I didn't get a chance to fight back, though. I refused to have anything to do with the kids I went to school with. Yeah, Aaron, I didn't. I wasn't much of a fighter in the 80s either. I was kind of the wimpier kid. So I learned to fight with my mouth, which got me into trouble sometimes. But it gave me a career in radio, right? Hey! Let's see. Morning, everyone. Finally woke up early enough to hear us live. Wow, Richard, thank you. I appreciate that. Quick, get Thor some more coffee. I've got a little bit left. I'm not quite empty yet. Do you think crypto has bottomed? It looks pretty stable now. Yeah, it looks stable till it drops to 16.5. I think we're... So my wife had never heard the term a dead cat bounce before. And so I was telling her, I was like, I think this is a dead cat bounce. And she's like, what does that even mean? I'm like, well, that means if you throw a cat out of a second-story window, even a dead cat bounces. So it doesn't mean the cat's back to life. It just is bouncing, and it's going to eventually fall back down to earth again. But while it's bouncing, it sure looks like it's springing back to life, right? It's dead. So I think what we're seeing right now is everyone is betting that the Federal Reserve is going to crack and is going to stop hiking rates and stop the quantitative tightening and go back to quantitative easing and lower rates again. This historically has happened before. This is what happened a couple of years back when they tried to do this exact same thing right before COVID. They ended up loosening back up again because the economy started to hiccup. We didn't have 17% inflation then. So now the question is which does the Fed want more? Which one polls better for re-election? A recession or runaway inflation? And the answer is a recession actually polls worse because they actually had to measure this for Biden. A recession would be a worse thing politically than rampant inflation. But the problem is I think you're going to get both. And that is the definition of stagflation, where you've got no growth and prices going up at the same time that wages are stagnant or falling. So there's literally nowhere to hide. There's instability everywhere as a result. There are no things. So you're going to see people going to locks. They're going to go back to bonds. They're going to go back to savings accounts. You're going to see a return to some of the things that were popular back before I was born. Has crypto bottomed? It's hard to say. I'm not going to call a bottom. I will say that I have accumulated an entire Bitcoin during this fall, buying and selling, which I told you I don't trade because I'm not emotionally, I get too invested, no pun intended, and I make snap decisions based on what I think is going to happen, and my brain works so fast that I think lots of things are going to happen. So if I act as quickly as I can think, I get into trouble, so I just don't. Well, I made an exception to the rule, and I use the rationale to calm my inner nerves. If the price of crypto goes through the floor, I have buys programmed in going all the way down to $16,500, so that if there's a flash crash or something, I'll be able to buy in. If the price of crypto goes up, I have programmed sales at 24, 26, and 28,000. If the price of crypto goes up, I'll have more money than I started with. Which of these scenarios is a loss for me? Either I have more crypto or I have more money. I know that the crypto is going to be worth more again in the future. I know that I can invest the money that I profit into more crypto if I wanted to, or pay down debt, or put it in a college fund or a health savings account or whatever else I want to do with it. So there's a lot of different reasons, or a lot of ways that I kind of calm myself down a little bit. But all of my, I've canceled all my sells on the upside because I'm like, you know what, I'm not worried about making money on the upside. I left my buys in place on the downside, but I've acquired an entire Bitcoin during the process of buying and selling and trading this range that we've been in now for about a week and a half. As a result of that, now I'm like the guy at the casino that hit a couple really good rolls on the craps table, except I'm going to take my chips and cash out now. So I'm going to take my chips and I'm going to say, I got my crypto, I'm good, I'm not selling, and I've got these program buys going in just in case the price goes down because, I mean, wow, 16.5. I would buy a half a Bitcoin at 16.5. So let the price go down if it's going to go down. I think we're going to see more volatility. We're starting to see some capitulation in miners. Last week, the miners who mine Bitcoin literally sold everything they mined, which is usually a bearish indicator. It means that they believe the price will be lower tomorrow. So they're going to sell everything that they mine now to get money to pay their power bills. On the flip side, on the other side of that, we've also seen now it's been trending down slowly as of yesterday. I haven't looked at it this morning, but as of yesterday, it was about 2.1% down. The difficulty, the expected next difficulty in Bitcoin. What that means in English is miners are turning off their equipment. So a lot of their lower profitability equipment is getting shut off because at the lower price of Bitcoin, you can't run an S9 miner and make any money because it's too old. It's too inefficient. As of right now, we are at negative 2.291% on the next adjustment in 10 days, which means 2.2% of the Bitcoin network is turning off their equipment because the price has fallen by 50%. And that's all the impact it had is 2.2%. Does that tell you how committed the miners are to securing the network, the strength of the blockchain? So, I don't know. It's hard to know which way things are going to go. So in those moments, I try to zoom out. So when I'm looking at like, oh my gosh, crypto, it really, I mean, it's not like it's gold, right? It's not like you can hold it in your hand. Does it actually have an inherent value? Does the blockchain actually have a value? Or am I just deluding myself and believing what I'm reading and the tulip bulbs are really valuable? Is that what I'm doing here? If you don't ask yourself those questions, you get stuck in group thinking. If you don't ask yourself difficult questions that actually challenge what you believe, you can't grow. So I ask myself these questions. And so then I say, okay, let's zoom out. What does the big picture look like? The big picture tells me that the U.S. economy is in trouble, that we have runaway inflation and stagnating growth at the same time. Maybe there's a soft landing, maybe there's not. Whatever the soft landing is, it's 2 more years of inflation at price points where we're at now. Where literally, I went to Five Guys and I got a burger and a fry and a drink, and it cost $19 for a burger, a fry, and a drink. That's like 2 years ago Disney World prices. You got to be kidding me. $19 for a hamburger and fries? And they pour a lot of fries in the back. But it wasn't $20 worth of potatoes, let me tell you. My goodness. When did things get so flippin' expensive, right? So those prices are never going to go back to the way they were before. They're never going to fall down. If you don't believe that, when is the price of gasoline ever going to be a nickel again? Because that's where it was at one point before all the inflation, right? It's going to come down to a nickel again at some point, if you believe that. The prices never come down. If they do come down, it's a short-term anomaly before they go up again. Google it. I did yesterday. When is the last time the United States actually experienced deflation? World War II. That was the last time we experienced deflation. We have not had a deflationary experience since World War II. That's pretty much everybody in living memory doesn't remember a deflationary event. Now, most people my age and younger have no memory of a stagflationary event either, or a massive inflationary event, a sudden inflationary event like we're experiencing. So there's a lot of new things happening now. So could deflation happen? Could we have another bout of deflation like what happened during World War II? Yeah, it's possible. But I don't think that's a likely outcome You're going to see some short-term deflation in prices because demand is going to crater and retailers need to move their inventory that exists that they are not replacing, by the way. So once those deflationary price savings once the LOL balls are sold for the year of the ox, I'm going to have to buy movie magic balls and I'm going to pay the normal price for them if there are movie magic balls to be had. So that's the standard of living argument. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into this. So I try to zoom out and I try to look at the macroeconomic picture and say, macroeconomically, understanding that past performance does not predict the future result of anything. You can use it as a guide, but it's not a guarantee. Bitcoin has dropped 70% or more in value 4 times in its history. And within 2 years of it dropping, it always reaches a new high. So while that is not a predictor of what will happen, I also know there are other events happening in the world of Bitcoin over the next 2 years. We're going to have another halvening, which means all the mining equipment out there that exists will become 50% less efficient overnight. How many people are going to turn off their rigs then? Well, guess what? Bitmain is coming out with new mining equipment that is 40% more efficient. Just in time for the halvening, right? I'll be able to buy those used units right before the halvening happens. Right now, the units that were new just a few months ago are selling for half the price they were before because of the price drop in Bitcoin. So there's a market happening on the mining equipment. There's all these markets interacting with each other, and nobody knows how it's going to work out. So macroeconomically, I know that my time horizon, I'm 45 years old, I am not going to be retiring in the next 10 years, 15, 20 years, right? Maybe 20, but who knows, right? I got some time is what I'm saying. So it makes sense for me to continue to put money into my 401k right now because I'm buying as the price is falling. Because historically, what has been shown to be true is people who leave the markets during a contraction inevitably miss the upswing. I don't want to miss the upswing because that's where you make your money. So I got to keep buying in, same amount, dollar cost averaging in. What am I doing with crypto? Same thing, dollar cost averaging in on the way down. If the price starts going up, I might slow down my buy a little bit because, I have a number in mind of what I want to have for crypto. And after that number, it's just more risk at that point. Why would I can't have that much wealth tied up into one asset, right? I've got to spread it around into some other things a little bit. But anyway, so when I zoom out and I consider that I've got some time and that as bad as the 1970s I'm sure felt at the time, and there maybe the early 80s even, at the time, as bad as they felt, cycles changed. And when the cycle changed, there was money to be made for people who had capital. So your goal right now is to preserve your capital so that you have it for the next cycle. Simple as that. Simple, right? Easy. Just preserve your capital. You're fine. Don't lose it. Not a big fan of crypto, but it seems the one thing that can't be confiscated. Yeah, Gene, you are correct about that. Crypto can't be confiscated. It can be taxed, but get this. The government, in their zeal to squeeze every last drop of taxable goodness from the gift that keeps giving, the golden goose of crypto, they have generated the greatest income tax loss ever for everybody involved in crypto, right? All you have to do is sell your crypto now. You bought it, what, $40, $50, $60, $70,000? Sell it now. Book your losses. Harvest those losses up. File them on your taxes. And get all your money back. Carry these losses forward in the future to offset future gains. Happy day! Yeah. All that money spent on crypto. All you have to do is sell it now. I don't know how long you have to stay out before you can buy back in, but if you're like me and you think you're going to have an opportunity to buy again at a lower price, maybe as low as 16.5, maybe as low as 12. If you sell now and program some buys, maybe don't sell it all, sell half. Program some buys going down. You get to harvest your losses for tax purposes. You get to buy in at a lower price, you get more Bitcoin, and you get the tax write-off. Thanks, Uncle Sam. We appreciate this huge injection of money into the economy among people who are most likely to spend it, but least likely to hire an accountant to file their taxes. All right, back to the show. Yeah. All right. Yeah, Brian, it was $19 for that burger. Now, that's not the same everywhere. Five Guys is an expensive place to get a burger, and they do give you 2 patties. It's a double. I mean, it's when you eat at Five Guys and you leave, your stomach is extraordinarily full. So you get a lot of food, but $19 for it's not even a gourmet burger. It's a foil. It's not like you're going to Red Robin, right, and getting like a basket of fries and having a server bring it to you, and you're eating it at the table, and you have a fork and a knife and all this. No, this is like a burger. You wrap it up, they sew it in a paper bag, and the grease is leaking through the bag, literally. It's delicious. It's making me hungry thinking about it, but it's $19 for a burger and a fry and a drink. Funny story. So I had Lou with me, my youngest. He's 4. And took him with the Five Guys. I don't know why I had him with me that day. Just took him with me. Oh, because I dropped Katie off at therapy, and I had all the kids with me because my wife was doing something, so I had all the kiddos. Dropped Katie at therapy, said, let's go get a burger at Five Guys while I wait for Katie to be done at therapy. And so I go to Five Guys to get my burger, and I get a drink. Whenever I eat anything meat or bread, I have a restriction in my esophagus. I drink a lot of liquid with it. So I get myself a drink while I'm there. And my son says, Dad, I want a drink of water. And I'm like, I'm not going to buy another drink cup so that this kid can take one sip out of a water cup and then call it good. So while I'm waiting for my burger, I go over with my cup and I just put some water in it. You can do the lemonade thing where you just pull the lever down and it gets water. Give him some water, and he's drinking like a big kid out of the cup. Pretty good stuff. So then he's done. I'm like, okay, give me my cup back, kiddo. It's time for me to get some lemonade. And he get me a lemonade. I don't know why I felt like lemonade that day. I just did. So I poured out the rest of the water, filling it up with lemonade. And he says, what's that? I was like, it's lemonade. And he goes, can I try it? And, whatever they're for, they want to try something new. You're like, absolutely. So, unless it's like, hey, Dad, can I try your whiskey sour? Then, you don't let your 4-year-old do that. But if it's a lemonade, that's cool. And it was funny because he drank it, and he was like, whoa! And he was like, that was so good. And so he wanted one. So I had to go and buy another cup. The guy gave me the cup for free, though, because, I paid $19 for a burger, so he gave me a free cup. Five Guys is awesome. Go over to the machine, get him his lemonade all day long. He is sipping on that lemonade all day long, to the point where we started to worry that the cup might be disintegrating. You know how like those fast food cups eventually, like the seams start leaking? This cup is getting a little sketchy. But he comes, Mommy, I'm drinking my sour. Yeah, he called it his sour, and he walked around with it. So, $19 and a fun story to tell. So now, see, the value is building, right? I wouldn't have that fun story if I wouldn't have spent $19 and had my son try lemonade and call it his sour and walk around all day long. And then I picked up the cup literally at the end of the day, pour it down the drain because he didn't drink it all, just like the water. And my hand stuck to the cup because it was seeping through the cup. Like, they don't make the cups out of the same stuff they used to, for sure. Let's see. Yeah, Ronald, the future of Bitcoin mining? Yeah, someday there will be no mining. The problem is that's like 80 years out, and it's algorithmically protected. So there eventually will come a time when there is no mining, and all fees for people running mining equipment will be derived from the use of Bitcoin on the network. The idea being that there are transaction fees when you spend Bitcoin, and 80 in 2080 or whenever the mining is done, when all the Bitcoin that's ever been minted has been minted. The idea here is that people will be transacting Bitcoin by that time. It would have been adopted at that point as a stable currency that is not going to inflate ever, because it can't. And as a result, it'll be desirable, and it's transactable, and it's fungible, it's easily moved. You can buy a loaf of bread with it, you can buy a car with it, you can buy a house with it. Unlike gold, which you can't buy a loaf of bread with gold. The gold coin would be like, I don't know, it looked like a kid's toy. It'd be so insignificant. That's one of the limitations of precious metals. Use a silver coin, Thor. Well, So anyway, the future of it, eventually down the road at some point, the equipment is going to become increasingly better at mining it. The difficulty will get increasingly harder to mine it. As a result, you're going to continually have this battle. At some point, I'll be out because I sat down with my wife and totaled up like the value of the equipment I have in the Bitcoin mine, and it's getting stupid because it builds on itself, right? Because you're either in or you're out. You always have to be buying new equipment, so you're always retiring old equipment and buying new equipment, and as a result, you're constantly reharvesting investment and keeping it going forward. When you stop, you can take a windfall profit for a while, but then you're done. Then your equipment is all dated. It's not efficient to run. You'll lose money if you run it. Nobody wants your equipment because it's a money-losing piece of equipment. And then you just have to buy in, and you're buying in for straight cash at that point. So it's much better to let the equipment earn the money to pay for itself over time and then take a smaller percentage return on investment and constantly have that return than it is to take a big return and then be done. But at some point, I'm going to take a big return and I'll be done because that, or I'm going to have to go really big because I'm going to outgrow the facilities that I have to mine with. Deflation. Before the creation of the Federal Reserve, deflation should be standard. It should be, but it wasn't. It was the weird thing. If you go back further, so what caused, after World War II, what caused deflation? It wasn't the war itself. It was the automation that came from the war. The technological advances that came from the war led to efficiencies that led to increases in production. So what causes deflation? Massive increases in production. Massive increases, not in production, in productive capability without additional inputs. So in other words, I don't have to give you more labor, I don't have to give you more materials, but I get more finished product, which seems completely counterintuitive, right? But think about that. How do you compete with China with slave labor? Well, you build a robot force to manufacture your goods. When the technology gets to that point, we won't have Kellogg's workers on the assembly lines and the confectionery union filling up cereal boxes full of cereal. It will be completely automated. You won't have auto workers assembling vehicles anymore. You won't have a lot of these jobs that we have now. You're going to have a lot of service jobs and a lot of repair jobs until the point comes years and years and years in the future where we have robots that are so adept that they can come seat the toilet for you. Then how much does it cost to have a toilet put down? Well, the robot costs some money, and then after that there's some maintenance costs, and you got to charge the robot. But the robot doesn't take any breaks. The robot can work 24 hours a day. The robot is predictable, and the robot means we don't need to have a human. So yeah, we're going to see a huge increase in productivity coming over the next decade because of what's happening right now. Restaurants are automating everything from serving staff down to kitchen staff to cleaning. Once these jobs are gone, just like the ATM, just like the self-checkout in the convenience store or in the grocery store, once those jobs are gone, they don't come back because they can be automated. What jobs can't be automated? Well, human interaction, right? We're getting there. We're getting close. Have you been to a McDonald's recently? Here in Omaha, I went to 2 different McDonald's so far. At 2 different McDonald's, I was greeted by a completely artificial intelligence person at the speaker. So my kids wanted Happy Meals. They wanted 2 chicken nugget Happy Meals with fries, because no one wants those stupid apple slices, and apple juice. Okay? My daughter won't eat the fries, but she'll eat all the chicken nuggets. My son won't eat the chicken nuggets, but he'll eat all the fries. So we swap them. She gets 8 chicken nuggets, and he gets lots of fries. And everyone's a happy camper with their Happy Meal. They all get a cheap toy that they'll never play with that I can literally throw away by the time I get home from McDonald's, and nobody cares. Remember when the toys used to be good? Not anymore. So I pull up to the speaker, and it's like, "Hi, welcome to McDonald's. How can I help you today?" Wow, it's cheerful. Okay. And I just figure, you know how they record the message? "Welcome to McDonald's. Where you can get like 2 Big Macs and a McRib for like whatever. Can I take your order?" And then you're like, "Yeah, I'll have a." And then they're like, "Welcome to McDonald's. How can I help you?" You're like, "Did you not know there's a recorded thing that says that already? Like, do they not train you that?" Like, I don't. Okay, whatever. So anyway, the speaker says, "How can I take your order? Can I take your order?" And I said, "I need 2 chicken nugget Happy Meals, please." And it's like, "Would you like a Barbie toy or a girl toy or a boy toy?" Or however they say it. Like, okay, whatever toy, Disney toy, whatever. And they would like apple juice for the drink, and they want extra fries instead of the apple slices. This computer, accurately took the order, and I said it just like that. I didn't know I was talking to a computer at first. Because when you talk to a computer, you're like, I would like, can it handle 2 quantity? So I'd like a chicken nugget you can get a 4 count or a 6 count chicken nugget Happy Meal. Crap. All right, I need 1 4 count chicken nugget Happy Meal. Pause. I would like to substitute fries for apple slices. Pause. And an apple juice for the drink. And then you'd order the second one, right? No, I just went, like I was talking to a human. I want 2 chicken nugget Happy Meals with fries instead of apple slices and apple juice for the drink, please. And the only thing it asked me was what kind of a toy did I want. And I told it. Hell, they don't even ask me that at the window when I go through with a human. And it got the order. And it was not taken by a human. That's what's happening. That's what happens when you pay people $15 an hour to take drive-through orders. It's not worth that much money. I'm sorry, it's just not. So they're going to automate those jobs. They're going to go away, and they're never going to come back. And that's going to be the increase in productivity that we need to see in next deflationary event. So if we're going to have one, that's going to be the cause of it. But we got to go through the pain first to get there. And the pain is what's going to cause the deflationary event in the future. The general rule is you have to wait 30 days before you can buy what you sold. Okay, well, 30 days, that's not a problem. 30 days in crypto? Like, what was the price of Bitcoin 30 days ago? Bitcoin price 30 days ago. Historical price, blah, 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 blah. 30-day historical price data. Here we go. Oh, let's see. Wow, this is like the most difficult website ever to read. 21,435 is the current price. I want to know what the 30-day high is, not the all-time high. So I Googled historical price data. I have to go back down 30 days. Okay, scrolling down to day 30. On 5/28 of 22, today is the 26th. Let's see. I can only go back to the 28th. There's no data from the 26th, which is kind of funny. It was 28.8. So it's lost $7,000 in the last 30 days. So yeah, I mean, imagine if you sold 30 days ago. You've already booked a loss, even if you would have bought right before then, right? So now, 30 days from now, it could be at 16. You could be sitting pretty to buy back in if you sell now. On the other hand, it could rally. We could see a rally where you could sell it a little bit higher, but don't count on that. This is definitely a dead cat bounce, in my opinion. And again, if you take your financial advice from the computer repair guy, you deserve the outcome you get. All right, let's see. All right, any last call for questions, guys? We're going to wrap her up here. It's been an hour and 2 minutes. Look at the value. Look at the value. It's like we're inflating the aftershock every week for you by a minute or a minute and a half. At this rate, by next year, I'll be doing like 2.5 hour aftershock. Because we'll inflate it like the federal government does. All right. We're going to wrap it up, guys. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate you being a part of the show. Thank you for telling your friends about Schrock. Right now, we're facing the same challenges that every other business is, and we're looking at advertising budgets and saying, wow, I mean, how do we get the word out about what we do and how we do it and why it's better and different, but we don't absolutely destroy the budget doing it, because advertising costs are actually going up at a time when everyone's buying less. It doesn't, again, instability in the market. Long story short, guys, please tell your friends and family about us. please send your friends and family into Schrock to have us work on their computers. Your recommendations mean the world to us. It allows us to offer the amazing products and services that we do. We have some crazy stuff in the pipeline for development that's going to just completely revolutionize what we do. We're excited about it. We're excited to do it for you. And we can do that because of support of people like you who watch the program and do business with us and send their friends and family to us. And I really appreciate that. All right, guys, thanks a lot. Have a great afternoon, great Sunday. We'll see you again next weekend.